Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Dead with Dave. For all of you that's new to my channel and new to this show, I welcome you. This is a Halloween show. The whole show is about Halloween, horror, home haunts, props, anything you could possibly think of that has to do with Halloween, and I put it on this show. So if you don't like Halloween or horror, you are definitely on the wrong channel. But don't hit the stop button yet. You might like it, and you might get bit by the Halloween bug like all of us have. And you never know, by the end of this year, your house might look like this. For those of you who don't know whose yard that is, shame on you. You should know these things. Of course, that was Steve's from Steve's Haunted Yard, YARDHAUNTER5 here on YouTube. Just a kick-ass yard haunt. Steve's a veteran here on YouTube. He does a vlog and many how-to videos of the props he's working on. And of course, he has his kick-ass home haunt. And I'll go on record right now and state that I believe his cemetery scene is one of the best cemeteries here on YouTube. Want to show my love and support for him because all of you already know who he is, probably, because most of my subscribers are already subscribed to him. And so, but if you don't know who he is, go check him out. Again, YARDHAUNTER5. His name's Steve. Really cool guy, down to earth, and awesome channel. Anyways, let's get on to some cool stuff, and I think we're going to go right back to cool props. Guy had wrote me in the beginning of the week for his cool prop, and he asked me to check out his Tesla tower, and so I did. It came from username 165Alice1002. I checked it out, and let me tell you, it blew me away. Check out this video. It is amazing.
Okay, here's our latest project, our Tesla tower. This is like 3 weeks of tinkering. It's going to be hooked onto my ray gun. My assistant here will now turn it on so you can see what it does. And this is the cool effect at night.
In his video, he talks about how he built it. It's made out of 4-inch PVC, toilet flanges, a beach volleyball, and some fiberglass. And of course, can't miss the Christmas lights. That's the awesomest part. He has a whole bunch of junk parts from computers and electronics and gauges and stuff like that on there. And it all works. As you see, the kid flips the switch, and the lights light. Every switch is flipped. And that's a really, really awesome thing about that. I love Mad Scientist Lab stuff. I'm definitely a Mad Lab person, and he definitely just runs the gamut on these things. I mean, also on his channel he has a ray gun here. Check out his ray gun real quick.
Okay, here it is. Not really sure what it is. It's my lab thingy. Some sort of ray gun. Probably going to aim it at a guy's head. Got a couple weekends in this old girl. It's kind of high voltage. You really don't want to touch it. Burn your face off with it.
You know, I've thought of using some Christmas lights in my props, but I never thought about using them like this. He really does an awesome, awesome job. The one thing that is hilarious in his ray gun video is, here, just listen to it. It's basically the culmination of everything that I've personally built in my haunt as I'm building it. It's great. He just throws it out there. Listen to this.
Like I said, don't know what it is, but it's cool as hell.
I don't know what it is, but it's cool as hell. That sums up everything I've ever built as I was building it. As I build my props, I don't really ever have a finished game plan in my head. It kind of morphs into what it is, and he says it out loud. It's like, I don't know what it is, but it's cool as hell, and that's awesome. I think that's going to be one of my favorite settings from now on. Again, his name is 165 Alice 1002. I'll pop it over there, and check it out. Subscribe to him. He doesn't have many subscribers. I'm surprised with his lab equipment. I'm surprised he only has like 11 subscribers. Definitely go subscribe to him. Keep it coming. He has some new stuff coming out, and you definitely need to show our support to him. Definitely. I think now would be a perfect time to do a little Q&A. I actually got a video question for you today. This question comes from Matt from Dismal Hill Cemetery, and he sent me this.
Hello Dave, this is Matt with Dismal Hill Cemetery. That's my YouTube channel. My profile there is MLPJMC, and you've given me a nice comment recently, and I really appreciate that. It's an honor for you to view my material and like it. I have a question for Dead with Dave though, and you're doing an awesome job on that series. I've got a tribute to Edgar Allan Poe tombstone here that I've made, and I want to bring it to the next level. Usually I have it out at night, and I use a string of Christmas lights for several props out front, and behind the heart here is usually a blinking red Christmas light to imitate a beating heart. Well, what I'd like to do is add some sound. So I want to know if you know of some sort of device or control that will record and play sound of a beating heart and synchronize it to the light. I would like this to flash red on and off with the sound of a beating heart. So if you know of a controller or device that will do both of those, it seems like you seem to have the experience and expertise. I thought I'd just drop you a question and appreciate your response. Thanks again.
Well, thanks for the video question, Matt, and I think I've got an answer for you. It just depends on how much money you want to spend, but it does not always involve how much money you're going to spend. We can go. There's a couple different ways you can do this, and you can go very cheap to kind of expensive. So I'll just run through them real quick. The cheapest route and the easiest route, and actually kind of the one that does kind of the best effect, is one of these. This is a lightning effects controller. They don't make this particular model anymore, but they do make, there's a bunch of companies out there that make stuff just like this. You've probably seen these before. Spencer's Gifts used to sell this one. You play audio sound, it just flashes your lights to that sound. Also, with most models these days, you can actually plug the cord right into wherever your sound is coming from, and it'll make a beating heartbeat, which is very effective. It does have a dimming property to it, and it's I think one of the best looking ways to do it and easiest. Only problem with it, you said that you want an all-in-one where it's going to produce sound and do the timing of the lights. This does not produce sound. You cannot record sound to this. You're going to have to use a separate audio source. You could use an MP3 player, an iPod. You can use just a regular stereo system if you want to do that. If you want to go the cheap route, I mean, this is only like 35 bucks. Amazon.com now has one. It's kind of like this. It's called the Perfect Storm Lighting Effects Kit. It goes for $34.95 on Amazon. It's just like this in that kind of way. If you wonder what that sound is, it's my cat scratching on my wall. You done? Thank you. Ruining my show. Now, if you want to go a higher grade, something that you have more control of the lights, you can go with an iZombie controller, which is also a lightning effects controller, which controls light and with sound. Other problem with it though, it does not record. It doesn't record your sound again, so you're going to have to produce a separate audio source. But you're going to be able to have a lot more control of what heartbeat you want and how it's going to dim on and off. They're really great controllers. They go from like $130 to like $294 depending which model you buy. The great thing about these controllers is that they handle a lot of watts. I mean, I know you're using Christmas lights, so your watts aren't a big deal for you right now. But if you're using it for anything else, they go from 1200 watts all the way up to 2400 watts, multi-channel flashes. They're great controllers. I love them. Now, for the all-in-one controller that you really want, I would go with a Peekaboo Pico Effects controller. You're going to get your sound and your light control out of one box. It's made by Fright Ideas, the same company that makes the Boo boxes and the Peekaboos, and it's a great controller. You just plug your lights right into it. You'll be able to record your sound to it. I think it's up to 2 minutes recording time. I don't think you need that much recording time for a heartbeat, of course. I mean, but for other things, you have 2 minutes recording time. What's great about them, it has a dimmer effect to it. You have these knobs in the front, which you turn to dim your lights on and off. So as you're recording, for the heartbeat, you're going to have to turn your knobs every time the heart beats, like that. Program it for like 30 seconds and then run that loop over and over again. It'll be perfect and perfect forever. They go for about $199 right now. It's expensive, I know, especially if you're just using it on a tombstone. But no, that's basically what you're going to have to do for something where you want sound and lighting in one package, like that. Now, yet another way you could go, if you really want to, you can just go full-blown prop controller, like this. This is the old Boo box, but you can use any prop controller in this place. You can do the Peekaboo AC controller, or you can just do the ones with relays. It's basically the same type of setup. It works. It's functional. It does have its drawbacks, and I mean, it functions. The only problem you're going to have with it is you have that clicking sound from the relays inside. And anytime you have a controller that you need relays, that's the sound you're going to get. So you're going to have to take that controller, you're going to have to hide it or encase it, and you can even encase it in another tombstone to just keep the sound, to shut the sound up. But it does function, and it does work that way. So it's basically up to you on which way you want to go. They're all fairly simple to hook up. Just read the instructions and do it that way. I hope that's helped. I hope it's helped. I'm sure that's not the be-all, end-all of how to do this. And you know what? Let me throw this question out to my viewers, because you haunters out there, you guys have ingenious ways to do things. So What do you think? You know, put in the comments below. Tell me how you would do it, and maybe we can give him a couple more ideas to help him out with his tombstone, his beating heart. So, cool. Well, let's get right into how to make shit. I want to talk about trigger options for your controllers now. Since we've been talking so much about controllers and how they're used and what they're used for, if you're going to buy one, you're going to need a trigger. No matter what, you got to turn it on somehow. So I figured this would be the best time for us to go through them. There's a couple different ones out there, and some work great, some other ones work better, and then some aren't going to work at all for you. It just depends on your situation and what you're doing with it. So I'm going to run through them quick because this whole episode is getting kind of long and I don't want to drag on and on. So we'll go through quick. Okay, the first on the list of triggers would have to be the push button trigger. It's the simplest to use. It's the cheapest one to buy. Anybody can hook it up and anybody can use it. You just push the button and it turns your prop on. The greatest thing about them is you can have somebody sit there and time your activation perfectly. The bad part about them, you have to have somebody sit there and time your activation perfectly. So the pro is the con. But sometimes it's the best way to do it. The next one is the motion sensor. I talked about that one in the last episode. I've already said how much I dislike them. It's not that I hate them. People had actually said in the comments that they use them and it works great for them. And that's awesome. If it's working good for you, keep doing it. A lot of people use motion sensors, and a lot of times you are forced to. I have motion sensors in my heart. I have to use them because I need that wide range of sight, and there is no other option that I could use for those situations. And you're going to run into those situations also. You're going to find that you're going to need a motion sensor. Nothing else is going to work for you. So definitely go with that. The cons are, of course, most sensors, they're not very accurate. They're not going to trigger exactly when they're triggered. And if you have a startle prop, something that's going to jump up at you and it's not timed perfectly, it can ruin the scare. If you have a motor-driven prop that you just need to see somebody to turn on so it's not running constantly, that's perfect. That's perfect for a motion sensor. But if you have that pneumatic startle prop that you need it perfectly timed, I would definitely keep away from the motion sensors. Now the next best thing to a motion sensor is a PIR motion sensor. And that means passive infrared sensor. Now, what passive infrared means is that it's not necessarily detecting your body heat. It's a misconception that it actually sees your body heat. It doesn't. It tells the difference from what it's normally looking at to the change in heat when, say, somebody walks in front of it. So if it's staring at a wall and somebody walks in front of it, it's going to see that difference in heat, no matter what the temperature is, as long as there's a change in that heat. So they work great. Now, they're not affected by fog machines. Like a motion sensor can be affected by fog machines. A PIR sensor is not affected by fog machines. They're very easily installed. There's no wiring issues that you have to contend with. And they're very affordable, of course. The cons, they still have their, inaccurate triggering. So it's not always, if you're having that startle prop again, it doesn't have the exact time that you're going to be in front of it that it's going to trigger. So you're going to have timing issues with that too. The next best thing to a PIR motion sensor is going to be your beam sensor. And that's exactly what it is. It's a beam. So it's going to, it shoots a beam from the transmitter across a certain amount of distance, and not a very far distance by the way, but a certain amount of distance, to a reflector, like a bicycle reflector. And that reflector shoots it back to the sensor. So when that beam is broken, it notices and triggers. So the pros of that is it's going to trigger constant and perfect every single time. So once that beam is broken, your prop is perfectly triggered. Now the cons to it, they can be a bit pricey. They're not one of the cheapest things. Installation can be a bit tricky too. Once you got to set the beam up perfectly to shoot off that reflector. You can't, if you're doing a home haunt and you're trying to shoot that beam across the street, it ain't gonna work. So don't try it. You basically got to keep it within like a 6-foot distance. You can go a little farther and shorter, but it's harder to line up that beam. And it is affected by fog machines. So if you have a lot of fog in your haunt, it can break the beam just by the fog. So that's for beam sensors. My next favorite is going to have to be the pressure mat. Now most people know about the pressure mat. They come in many different sizes. So you can get whatever you need for whatever space you're putting it in. I have a couple of pressure mats in my haunt. I actually scared my mom with a pressure mat a couple months ago.
It's hanging?
Mm-hmm. She didn't even see it on the floor. It was underneath another like a welcome mat. She didn't see it. Stepped right on it. Perfect, accurate timing. You're not going to get that with a motion sensor, by the way. Keep knocking those motion sensors, I know. They're relatively affordable. They're not very expensive at all. They're almost the same price as a PIR sensor, around the $30 to $40 range. So, I mean, if you're going to do that, I would go with a pressure mat. And they're simple to install. They only have 2 wires to go in it, and I actually have one over here. They only have 2 wires in them, so it's very simple to install. Cons, you know, who's ever going in your haunt can find where they are and just keep stepping on them. You know, once somebody finds out how to activate your prop, they'll just sit there all day and just keep pushing that mat. So that can get annoying. Your patrons must step on the mat. They can't step over it. So if you try to get a kind of smaller mat, or if it's just not the right size, and they walk around it, step around it, they're going to miss the scare. And of course you have to hide the mat, because they come in black, and depending on the size, it can come pretty big, and you have to hide that. So that can get into a little annoying thing. People are going to be stepping, you can put a rug on it, people are going to be stepping over that rug or on that rug. So you got to be careful on how you're going to hide it. Now there is other sensors out there that you can use. I think those 4 or 5 is definitely what home haunters are going to use. There's sensors, you know, there's hayride sensors where it detects metal, so it might be good for a home haunter in a way. What you do is it attaches to the ground, and when a car drives by, it's going to detect that car, and it'll trigger whatever prop you're hooked up to. So that might be good for a house that doesn't have many cars that drive by. You don't have people that walk up to the house and just drive by. That might be a good idea. And there's some other ones out there, but I think if you stick to the original 5, you're going to do your push button, motion sensor, PIR motion sensor, beam sensor, and pressure mat. I think those are going to be the best way to trigger your animatronics. Well, that wraps up another episode of Dead with Dave. I wanted to thank all my new subscribers out there. I got a bunch of them in the past couple of weeks. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all my new viewers. I want to thank everybody that sent me questions and comments. They're awesome. I love the support. It makes me feel good about what I'm doing here. And I want to thank you. I really do want to thank you. But definitely keep the questions and comments coming in. Without you guys, I don't have a show. So I need your guys' information. I need to know what you guys are doing. I need to know what props you're building, what haunts you're working on. I need to know that stuff. So please keep sending it to me so that I can put it on the show and so everybody else can see it. So thanks again. This is Dead with Dave.